Welcome to this video on the Zenware channel. In today's video we're going to talk about one of the great secrets of the Aztec people, and this is a secret that was discovered when the Aztec Empire was invaded. And this is the secret of the two thrones. So this video is called The Two Thrones. The story of the two thrones of the Aztec Empire. So in previous videos on this channel, I've talked about the development level of the Aztec Empire, which reached the summum of development in the mystical field, in the mystical arts, the summum of development. So divination, magic, astrology, the science of the Shri. They are a culture that come from an origin story, a creation story, which is the truth exactly as it is spoken and the truth exactly as it is written or drawn. And I've talked in previous videos on this channel how there's a symbiotic relationship between the Mayan pantheon and the Aztec pantheon, as the Aztec gods are the modular Shri that take action, and the Mayan pantheon are the regulator Shri, the regulator gods, which allow or stop an action. So basically the oversight of the action at that level. And as you can imagine, there is a complex relationship between the two pantheons. So the Aztec gods are real and they are very powerful. Okay. And there is such a depth to the knowledge of Aztec culture. And one of the reasons that there is such a depth to the culture of the Aztec is that they were visited by avatars of their gods. Okay, so similar as in Hinduism, in the stories of Sanatana Dharma, they talk about avatars, and similar to other cultures as well, avatars of gods, or avatar of God. Okay. They also had avatars. So they also had lineages of spirituality related to their gods and their pantheon as well, and their story of creation as well. So they had a fully developed spiritual civilization which reached the summum of spiritual development. So although their empire lasted only a short period of time, although their people of that descent still exist, the empire itself lasted only a short period of time. Everything is relative in time and space. Short, not short. Long, not long. They have a fully developed society, okay, which is immortalized in their gods and in their pantheon. So a different type of society where the humans lived to get immortality within their gods, okay, and to develop the culmination of the society, which is its Shri, its gods. A story of two thrones, okay. There is the divine throne, and there is the human throne. Okay, so in that case, you have the emperor, for example, which sits on the stone throne. Okay, and then you have divinity, which sits on the jeweled throne. Okay, in one of the stories of the Aztec Empire, okay, their emperor sat on the stone throne, essentially. Okay. And then they also had beings sitting on the divine throne, or the jeweled throne, which was in a different spot, a different place. This is a story, controversial story, sure. So we don't want to bring controversy to it, but we want to bring light to it. So one of the ways of seeing it is that the Aztec also had serpent gods. Okay, so it was known in Aztec culture that every age, essentially every period of time, there would be an incarnation of one of their serpent gods. Okay, and the serpent gods were related to divinity. Okay, were seen as royal in their own right. Okay, the serpent gods. And as for example, there are traditions in India of Naga, right? And Naga, which are a form of gods, of spiritual beings, right? That people worship in altars and all these different things in India. Many temples have Naga shrines, right? And I've talked a lot about Nagas on this channel if you're interested in looking at videos on the channel on that. Well, there was also the serpent gods that visited the Aztec people, right? And who sat on the throne. So every age that would turn, right? Every certain amount of years, there would be a new serpent god that would come, right? And what is the form that the serpent god would take? The serpent god would take the form of a snake, right? A special type of snake which could talk, right? A talking snake, right? So as you can imagine, so basically these snakes, and at different times in the history of the Aztec Empire, there were different snakes on the throne, right? But the progeny of the different snakes, right, was lesser versions of the snakes. And the new snakes that came were the snakes of the ages that came. So these snakes were talking snakes, a specific species of snake that can talk, right? So they were put on the jeweled throne, and you can see this in some images, for example, related to Tezcatlipoca. You can see snakes on a throne, right? So in different interpretations, people thinking lizards or something like that. No, it's snakes actually, and it's talking snakes. And they're part of the story of the pantheon. And the snakes are related to a specific function, right? Because they're Naga gods, essentially, which take incarnation in a talking snake. So the snakes take a specific form of specialization. So, for example, you can have some snakes that would be specialized in war. You could have some snakes specialized in spiritual knowledge. You could have some snakes specialized in building, right, and constructing. So, different times, different snakes come. And these were put on the jeweled throne known as the divine throne, one of the two thrones of the Aztec Empire. So for people who know about this, first of all, it's a bit concerning, people who worship snakes. Okay, maybe if you see it in that way, maybe you're just not seeing it past your misconceptions and your unconscious bias, right? But we're talking about forms of divinity here, right? So every certain amount of years, a snake would come to and be elevated to the jeweled throne, a talking snake, right? And when the Aztec people knew that their empire was going to fall, right, they hoped, some of them, for a military snake, for a war snake, right, which would come with war technologies to help them fight off the end of their empire. But that's not how that's not how their karma was, right? That's not how the destiny was to be. So actually, the last snake that they got was actually a builder snake, right? A snake related to culture and building, instead of being a military snake, which was perhaps disappointing to some at the time that they didn't get a war function snake. So there was the snakes on the jeweled throne. So, and these snakes were treated basically like divinity on the throne, basically, give them jewels and all these different things. And, the snakes basically had their life on the jeweled throne for the time that they were in creation here. You can look at them in a way of seeing it as alien gods, or you can look at it in a way of seeing it as Naga gods, right? Uh, Functions within the system that incarnate divine functions, divine beings, and basically they would come with a specific specialization to share with the Aztec people for those years when they would be there. And then later on a different snake would come, and basically depending on the specialization of the current snake, it would basically move the development technologically and socially of the Aztec Empire in that direction of the snake of the age, of the snake of the years. And sometimes there were multiple snakes developing in different ways. So basically incarnations of Nagas taking form, right? Now, as you can imagine, when the people who invaded the Aztec Empire, and the Aztecs knew that they were going to be invaded and that the end of their empire was coming, and they prepared for it and set everything in motion for it, including the great secret of their development and hiding it, right? And their importance within the Dharma and the greater story, and the Aztec gods and their nation. But when, they were invaded, right? And the Europeans came and convinced those around them that maybe didn't like snake worshippers, and everyone to turn around against them. Well, they found out, the Europeans, about the snakes on the jeweled throne. They heard rumors of it, right? So they searched out for the jeweled throne when they invaded, right? And they found the jeweled throne, and they came to the throne to kill the snake on it, right? Which was the new snake that had come. And when they entered the throne room, they were met with a load of resistance. They killed the guards, and then one Aztec soldier, one Aztec warrior, a great warrior, a great warrior, okay, came in and saw the Europeans inside the throne room and killed the invaders in the throne room, all of them. There were more than him, with his knife, his basic weapons, right? He killed them all in an unbelievable act of bravery and combat. A great warrior. And he basically saved the snake on the throne and took it, put it in a bag, and left into the countryside with the snake, and hid the snake so that the snake would survive. So you can imagine, from the European side, they hear this story about a talking snake or a snake on a throne, something like that. First thing they think about is their stories of their from the Bible, for example, where you're talking about the talking snake, and you think, oh my God, this is related to Satan or something like that. We've got to go kill this, and it's pretty concerning. We got to eliminate this from this society that we're invading. These savages, these pagans, whatever you want to call it, who have snakes on a throne. So you can understand their perspective. So we have to forgive them in a way for trying to kill Nagas, but at the same time, I hope they can understand better through this video what those snakes are, those incarnations of those divine snakes, which come with at a certain period of time, right? Incarnations of Nagas related to a specific function, right? So Nagas also incarnate, and the Aztec culture was so deep spiritually that, of course, part of their culture had Nagas incarnating into the culture, and they sat on the divine throne, which is one of the two thrones of the Aztec Empire. which is a story of two thrones: the stone throne and the jeweled throne. The stone throne, on which a human sits, and then the jeweled throne on which the divine beings sit, which come with the ages, and basically guide the development of the Aztec Empire into the future. So two stones. And this is, of course, related to the story of Tezcatlipoca, right? The snakes, it's part of the story of Tezcatlipoca, the snakes that come and visit, which represent different functions, right? And progressions of the story and of the Aztec Empire, and the snakes that come to guide into the new age, into the new development of the empire and for the people, right? Whether that be through the development of new military technologies, or the development of new building technologies, or building initiatives, or cultural initiatives, or whatever they are, right? Or new knowledge that comes in different forms, right? So of course the Aztec Empire was so complex in its complexity and development that they were getting Nagas that were basically being born and leading the direction of the Aztec Empire as they worked with the greater gods as well, who also came in human form in some cases as human Shris. Their gods visited the Aztec Empire as well. So you have the story of the snakes on the jeweled throne, but you have the stories of the gods themselves that came in human form and were treated like gods when they were in human form. They were recognized by their people. So a very, very complex and deep and spiritual society, the Aztec society. Unfortunately, many people just see them for the blood sacrifices and all that, but even that was a technology to empower their gods and to give them the strength that they would need to be the very main actors in the play of the Dharma in the future. Right? So the Aztec civilization on a spiritual level reached the culmination of development of a society. In their short period of time, they developed at that level. That's how important they are as society in the story, right? So it's a story of two thrones, the divine throne and the human throne, right? And the divine throne was occupied in a way by the Nagas that came, the divine snakes that came to guide the future of the empire. And it's a sad thing that obviously the conquerors wanted to murder the snakes, but you can understand from their perspective, in their story, a talking snake, a divine snake, all that stuff is very scary, so it's something of concern. And it's something probably, that for example, different organizations know about, the divine snakes, and the great secret that at the time when the Aztec Empire was invaded, there was a snake on the throne. Okay, and the snake survived. Okay, and after that the story continues. But the snake did not die in the throne room. The snake survived and was saved by a brave Aztec warrior who came into the second throne, into the first throne, into the other throne room where there was the jeweled throne, and basically saved the snake and brought him out, rescued him with a sack in a bag. Not very ceremonious maybe, and basically told the snake, don't talk, we're saving you, don't talk, we can't have a snake talking from the bag. So that's why you see in some pictures of Tezcatlipoca, the image of the jeweled throne, right? And you have the god Tezcatlipoca, which sits on the throne, right? But you also have the Nagas, which sit on the throne, as well, as they are coming from divinity, right? So they're attributed at that place on the throne, although it's really the god that sits on the throne. And then you have also the incarnation of the god, the human incarnation of the god, right? Who's basically thoughts, the thoughts that come into his mind, right? And that come out, right, through his speech, the truth of the story as it is told, adds new bubbles, new spirits, they're called, essentially, new stories to the central line of the story of the truth as it is told of the pantheon of the Aztec people, which is ruled by their god Omtec. So there are different names for Omtec, and he's known as the god of duality and all that stuff, but his secret name is called Omtec. And the people Aztec are named after their god Omtec, right? Aztec, as is tech, like tech, the people of Omtec. So a very fascinating and deep culture, and the most advanced pinnacle of spiritual development in a culture. There are other cultures that are very spiritually advanced as well. We can think about many different cultures on this planet that are spiritually advanced in their own ways, right? In their own stories and creation stories, right? But the Aztec people with a part to play in the story of the Golden Age and Dharma. Thank you for listening to this video.